Hey everyone, welcome back to another episode of Spoilercasts. Today we are going to be talking about Joker. I am Ashlyn Glocky and we have...
Morgan Holbrook.
What up, John Watson?
I'm Jordan Alda Esquire, senior, junior, the third.
There we go. And we're going to go ahead and do a spoiler-free review. So what did you guys think of the movie?
I've always loved comic books, and that's why I'm kind of repping Robin today. But so I was really hesitant to go see this movie, to be honest. Because I love Batman comics especially, and for me, I love thinking of Joker as something that appeared, not even as a person, just something that appeared because of Batman. So to think that this movie takes place in a world without Batman, at least that's what I got from the trailer.
Yeah.
I was really hesitant about it. That being said, people said good things about it, so I was curious, and I was happy I went. Yeah, I don't know, what about you guys?
I was definitely curious how they were going to transition from like Jared Leto's Joker or Leto's Joker. You know, Heath Ledger's Joker was such like an iconic character when he passed. You know, everyone was like, dang, man, that was such a great Joker. But I just want to see how Joaquin Phoenix would do in this movie. And, you know, there was so much hype leading to the movie. I was like, dang. It was good. It was a film.
I've always been a fan of big origin stories of how they came to be as a character. But before the movie, though, just a little fun little fact. I was singing in the theater. The person next to me was a mom. She was smart. She had a blanket, a bag of meals, and I'm like, this want to be the person one day. They had like bags of chocolate, and I'm like, can I have some? She answered me. So, but to the movie though, back on topic, I liked it though. I liked the Joaquin Phoenix committed to the role so well. Like we'll mention later in the show. A lot of Easter eggs that I found online that I'll talk about later on, but it's definitely my favorite ones this year.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I thought it was a great origin story because Joker is like probably one of the most infamous villains out there, and everybody knows about him. Everyone's probably grown up watching him on like cartoons and stuff or reading him in comic books. So I was really excited to go see the film and see what they were going to do with it because it was rated R, which I was interested because I would think, you know, like normal superhero films, it would be PG-13. So, but it was probably with how gory it was, and like I guess with the mental health and stuff, it was definitely probably right to rated R. So you guys want to get into spoilers now?
Sure.
So this is the...
Can you please stop bothering my kid?
Sorry.
Arthur, I have some bad news for you. This is the last time we'll be meeting.
You don't listen, do you? You just ask the same questions every week. How's your job? Are you having any negative thoughts? All I have are negative thoughts.
And finally, in a world where everyone thinks they can do my job, check out this guy.
When I was a little boy and told people I was going to be a comedian, everyone laughed at me. Well, no one's laughing now.
You can say that again, pal.
It's so awful, isn't it?
For my whole life, I didn't know if I even really existed. But I do. And people are starting to notice.
You think this is funny? Is this a joke to you?
Murray, one small thing.
Yeah.
When you bring me out, can you introduce me as Joker? Send in the clowns.
Now?
Sure.
So this is the spoiler version.
Yeah.
All right. Let's get that clear
Spoiler
here,
alert.
boys. Spoilers.
Spoilercast. Spoiler. Yes. So that's there.
What do you guys want to start out with?
Do you want to start at the beginning and move our way through, or what if we pick like our favorite moments?
All right.
Okay.
Why don't you go? You first. 'Cause
Okay. Sure. I think the first moment, or I'll say that one moment that really jumped out at me when I saw it, because like Drew mentioned, I had heard about some Easter eggs in advance. I saw a headline or something about it. I didn't read it, of course. I didn't want to spoil anything. But something that they did, like near the end of the movie, after he's been on the Murray Franklin show and he's murdered the dude and he's in the back of a cop car. There's this shot with the camera where he's like looking out the window and he sees the city burning. And to me, that was a direct reference to The Dark Knight, when Heath Ledger's hanging outside of the cop window, or the cop car window, and just kind of like, like his hair's blowing in the wind, because it looked almost exactly the same, like it was framed exactly the same. So that was something that I thought was really cool. Mm-hmm. That whole sequence with the people in the streets rioting and the Joker masks, that was probably how it all came together. That was a big moment for me. Mm-hmm. Yeah. What about?
I think for me, probably when like his whole realization moment, because the big thing for him is that he thought for the longest time that Batman's dad was his father.
Yeah.
Because he found out that his mother and him had an affair, and he thought that that was his dad, but he's actually adopted.
Right.
Ooh.
And kind of him going to the Arkham Asylum and finding out that he was adopted and his mother was insane.
Yeah.
And she kept saying, "Oh, you were born like this stuff happened to you," but we find out that, he abused both of them. And that's kind of how all the trauma happened. That's how he came to be who he was because of, Thomas?
Thomas
Wayne,
yeah.
yeah. Thomas Wayne. So it was just, I think the whole realization moment, you're kind of like, oh, that's why he's like this. That's kind of why. John, what are you going to say?
But was he actually adopted? That's
There was
the real
adoption,
question.
yeah.
Yeah, there were adoption papers.
But were they forged?
Right, and that was something that I think was, and that was something I liked too.
Yeah.
Like how I said earlier in the beginning, how Joker's always been inconclusive. Yeah. I feel like even after the movie, you're not really sure if he is really his son, if he's just crazy, if he was abused, if he wasn't. So that was cool too. But just to dovetail off of that.
Yeah.
But
for me, I think when Joker was woke for the first time, because like in the talk show, he was woke of like talking about how society's kind of like terrible in Gotham, and how like people like him are kind of like not the upper class. They kind of do all this trash people give on them, and how when Joker killed those three Wayne Enterprise or Industries workers, and how like they kind of cared about those guys, but if it was a person like Joker, to be like, oh, another casualty. So kind of like how he kind of his monologue was so, I guess, iconic in that movie. I just kind of heard that probably for the rest of a good bit.
Also with the movie, I liked how there wasn't too much CGI. And it was more of a practical effects kind of movie. It didn't feel like the typical Marvel superhero movie where it's like space battles and stuff. And it just felt so like nice and, real.
Yeah.
Almost as if like it could happen in your backyard.
It shouldn't, but it could.
It shouldn't, but it could.
no, that was I liked it. Was definitely a grounded story. I think if anybody who goes into that movie was a fan of The Dark Knight, they'll love it. I love The Dark Knight. I really enjoy the Nolan Batman movies. But yeah, I was just, as we were talking, it made me think of another moment that I really, really enjoyed. Because in the first half of the movie, before he kind of accepts his craziness, you see him constantly go up these really, really long stairs to get to his apartment with his mom. And he does that a couple of times and he trudges up the stairs. I think one of my favorite things that happened was at the end. He's in full makeup, he's in his suit, and he's dancing down the stairs. And to go back to what we were talking about earlier about how Joaquin Phoenix, his performance, for me, like the physicality of it, how he was always like dancing and stuff, that was, I don't know, for me that just felt so Joker.
Yeah.
And, just that visual, at first, when I saw the trailers, the makeup, I was like, okay, maybe. But seeing him dancing and with the cigarette and just looking like this really unhappy clown and just downright sinister, I thought he's my Joker now. I mean, Mark Hamill from the animated series, who voiced Joker in the animated series, he's great, and he will always be that voice. But as far as physical, live performances go, Joaquin Phoenix was amazing.
Oh yeah, especially with the whole laughing.
Yes.
Because I don't know if it's been mentioned in the comics, but we find out the reason that he laughs so much is because he has a condition.
Right.
Where he
Even-
laughs uncontrollably, and like even when he was laughing, it almost sounded like he was choking on it. Like the physicality into making that happen
He was
must have been
smoking too as
insane.
well.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So he must have.
Also,
yeah.
like whenever he was out at his locker at like the clown like haha factory or whatever it was,
Yeah.
whenever he like bent down, you could just see his back.
Yeah.
It was so like it was such a weird scene.
Yeah.
It was a long scene too, and I'm like, yo, this is like strange, but it felt like the movie was like playing with your emotions, and it was kind of cool. I liked how they did it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I had a question.
Okay.
About mental health issues involved in this movie.
Yeah.
Sure.
Question is, do you think that if someone went through what Joker went through, it can make him do something crazy like we did in the movie?
See, yeah, that's an interesting question. And again, that's something I know we talked about before the show, and something as a comic fan, they talk about in this one story, The Killing Joke, which I think that was it Alan Moore? Yeah, he was the writer of that story, and he has this big monologue. The whole idea of is one bad day happening to anyone could turn them into somebody like the Joker. That's the whole idea. So like you're saying, if any person today were to encounter what Joker encountered, could they become something similar? And I'd argue it has. I mean, we've seen it, especially nowadays, right? There's a lot of violence, and a lot of people that commit these violence have been linked to mental health issues, or they've been found to have mental health issues. So yeah, it's totally plausible to me.
Yeah.
Goes on for
Even
sure.
more recently, I know it was on the news the other day about the 9-year-old boy who he burned a house down, and there was 7 family members in there, and he killed all of them, and it was linked because he had schizophrenia. So I think one bad day where he's triggered, where he's something bad could happen. He's like, I got it, and it just kind of takes over you, and it can't happen. So I definitely think it could possibly happen.
John, why so serious?
I think that the Joker and Thanos have similar intentions of kind of fixing society. With the Joker, it's kind of in Gotham City. With he didn't have the intentions until later in the movie, but still they were like, we got to fix the city and rid it of these high class people who control everything, because Thomas Wayne wanted to be the mayor. What do you think?
It was actually I like the Easter eggs, and I guess the personality of Thomas Wayne embellished a similar political figure in today's day. I'll say that. And as also a callback, the person that played Thomas Wayne also played a congressman in Dark Knight Rises. The opening scenes where Catwoman was doing her thing, but it could happen. The Joker, he's got abused as a child. He has a condition, and I feel like, like you said, people today have the problem, like even in Douglas and South Florida, that happened. So it's kind of like a sad reality. But I mean, maybe this would kind of show the hard realities of mental health, and maybe it will encourage more awareness throughout the years.
Oh, yeah, and something I think we should also consider or talk about. I remember after we watched the movie, I forget who it was that asked, but people were saying there was some controversy about whether or not the movie should have included some sort of hotline number after the end of the movie. So, before I give my thoughts, I don't know who any of you had thoughts on that. Agree, disagree?
Well, I know because we talked about, or when we did It Chapter 2 Spoilercast, when we went and saw it, at the beginning of it, it said, because of all the strobe lights and stuff, that if that affects you, there's caution, watch the movie. And there was and I remember, I don't know who brought it up, but we did talk about it after the film, how either before the film there should be an advisory about this movie discusses a lot of mental health issues, viewer discretion advised. I don't know, because I did get a lot of backlash. I know one of our theaters locally in San Marco, I think it was, they're not showing it at all because of those reasons. So I think maybe for those reasons they should include it. I don't know about a hotline, but viewer discretion is advised sort of thing.
Okay, so some sort of
I
disclaimer.
think one of y'all said if they would have put a thing at the end or even the beginning, it would have been more of like a PSA.
Yeah.
And I don't think I don't think they wanted to do that with this movie.
Did you guys watch The Black Klansman at all?
No.
No.
So basically it was how a cop in the 70s who was African American went undercover by the current Klansman group in Colorado, and it was a Spike Lee film. Spike Lee does a lot of films that kind of encourages like a movement, and in the movie it showed American flag upside down in black and white, and showed like the Charlottesville riots like at the end of the movie. So I don't think it should be as strong as that though, but like if there was some kind of like PSA or even just like because the director Todd Phillips is not known for like these like hard-hitting emotional films. Like he hit from The Hangover as kind of comedy. So if there was a PSA, I'd kind of encourage that in the beginning. I'll say that.
Yeah. No, and like John was saying, I think that was something that we had talked about. Was I feel like if you included a hotline or a message or something like that at the end, definitely would have made it turn like the whole movie's a PSA. A discretionary warning at the beginning, I could see that. I could see how that one could make a pretty good case for that nowadays, especially. But I don't know if perhaps maybe the director felt it would be, no, it corrupts my vision. It could be something that simple. I don't know, but I think to go back to what you said earlier, it definitely earned that R rating.
Yeah.
And I think in the advisories, they talk about disturbing content and stuff. So, in that sense, the rating is a definite tip-off, and it's definitely earned. So.
Because in all those shootings, like they show them, like when he went on the show and he
Murray
shot
Franklin.
Murray in the head, like it was you saw it happen. And when he murdered his one friend in his apartment, like that was.
Oh yeah, that was fun.
Yeah.
That was great.
Yeah, it was. It was darkly
you
funny.
You were laughing the whole time. I remember that.
The little guy was just running around. He's like, I don't know what to do. I don't know what to do.
Yeah.
Then he had to go open the door handle and he couldn't reach it.
Yeah.
The Joker's like, oh. God.
Yeah.
I'll get it for you, man.
But that was a great scene because he's like, you didn't do anything bad to me. You were always nice to me. And it was like such a nice little scene, but he just killed his friend.
That was the thing too, because you almost felt like everyone that he murdered originally, he had, like, he did it for a point. He didn't do it just because, like, kind of what he's turned into because he just goes around and kills everybody. It had a point. Like the 3 guys who originally killed, they were originally going after the one woman
they're
on the
hassling a
subway.
woman, yeah.
And then they started going after him because he was laughing, and it was self-defense, and then he just kind of got out of hand. And then
I think it was chance that they were Wayne employees.
Yeah.
And stuff like that. That was like, I was like, whoa, that's connect the dots here.
Right.
But
at the same time, it didn't seem like forced to me.
Yeah, it didn't seem forced,
Because it was obvious in that scene that those were 3 dudes who'd been out drinking.
Yeah.
And they were hitting on this woman who's just not having it.
Yeah.
And, she runs off. And it's funny that you mentioned self-defense, because yes, I think it definitely started as self-defense.
But then it turned into something
But
else.
then the dude started running. He was limping away.
Yeah.
And he pursued the guy. I think that's an important detail from that scene. So he could have, like shot the one dude or the 2 dudes or whatever, and then let the other dude just run off. But clearly he he had that pent-up aggression. And I don't remember if it was before or, I think it was just before when he had been fired, right? Yeah. And you saw him out back, like, stomping on the garbage, and you knew that he was, like, he had this physical aggression, like, pent up inside of him. So I think obviously that was the turning point, and then directly after that, again, going into the physicality, he was dancing in the bathroom. I imagine that was like an adrenaline thing where he was just, he had all this energy, and he was, and just kind of like freeing himself, which was really interesting. But also, I forget who said it a second ago, we were talking about how he had that agenda for Gotham, and how he wanted to change Gotham. And it's interesting because in the beginning, what he repeats to himself and at the comedy club was, my mother told me I was put here to spread joy and laughter through the world. So from the very beginning of the movie, you could argue that he's set out to changing the world. So, but that mission changed, obviously. So what do you guys think? What made him change his mind? Just because, was it just all at once, or was it the one bad day, or I don't know. What are your thoughts on that?
I think it kind of started with just the kids taking a sign and how it kind of jeopardized his job. And as positive as he was, he kind of saw like this place actually kind of sucks in Gotham. So, he did try to change it for the better, but he ultimately snapped in the end.
Yeah.
I think there's a lot of context in the movie, and that's what they did really well with script writing.
Yeah.
Is that everything is basically, you can trace it back to earlier in the movie. Like, whenever he's in the Murray Franklin show, you can trace it back to the one scene where he's in the hospital and he's watching Murray Franklin with his mother. And then he kills her.
Yeah.
Spoilercasts.
Spoiler. Yeah, but there's a lot of context, a lot of good context too. There's no detail worth throwing out, really.
No.
Yeah. What do you think?
Well, yeah, I mean, yeah, you guys kind of talked to this.
Yeah, I mean, no, I think it's all well earned, like you
Yeah.
said. There's no point in the movie. I know we talked about how there's points where it becomes kind of cloudy,
Yeah.
what's real and what's not.
Yeah.
I remember John, you were saying at some points it was kind of complicated to follow because there's like flashbacks and then there's delusions.
Him
So-
and the girl, like
yes.
that was like,
Yeah.
I was like, thought that was so real. And then when they went back and they showed all the times where he imagined it,
Yeah.
and it was, I was like, whoa.
There was like 2
Okay.
timelines, and by the end of the movie, they just merged into one.
Yeah, because when he went into her room and she was scared, I was like,
Yeah.
but don't
Yeah.
they know
Right.
each
Don't-
other?
yeah, like-
And then it started, I was like, oh.
Yeah. For me, I
Okay.
think what that relationship felt weird from the beginning for me because I remember I think it was after he murdered the guys. He went like right back to his apartment and then he like went to her apartment.
Yeah.
Yeah. So and then it was implied that their relationship kind of started that
Yeah.
night after she had seen him in the comedy club, I think, and then he went back to her apartment. So that raised a lot of questions. It's like, one, did that happen? Did it happen the way it looked? Where it was implied that it was like he just went and it was like a consensual thing where they kind of hooked up. But then, at the very end when you see him in her apartment and she's obviously terrified of him. So then to me that raised questions like, oh God, did that happen? Or did he imagine that happening? Or did something more sinister take place, right? So yeah, I think that was really interesting too, him being that unreliable narrator.
Not gonna lie.
Yeah.
Which camera I'm looking at? She was way out of his league. Not even gonna lie. That's all I gotta say. Thank you.
Fair enough.
I like the callback though to the Joker's final outfit in the movie.
Yeah.
Goes back to 1960s Batman and like that outfit. So also that film in the 60s was great. The acting was terrible, but the movie was great. They had some great camera tricks, like they put the camera on its side, and they climb up the wall on the side, which is
True.
and they had the classic Band of Pow jump cut scenes or the screams for the punches. So and I loved all the good callbacks they did to kind of like give like DC fans or Batman fans like their little feel.
Yeah, there was a lot of cool little Easter eggs. I definitely, as a kid, I watched a lot of the Batman the Animated Series, and Murray Franklin was he had a show in the animated series, so that was a callback to that. And then I know something else that we've talked about and other people have made the comparison, just for cinema fans in general, anybody that loves Robert De Niro would definitely immediately compare, one, his character, Robert De Niro's character, Murray Franklin, to his character in King of Comedy, and then also would compare Joaquin Phoenix to Robert De Niro's character in Taxi Driver. So, and it definitely, and that was something too that really struck me that I enjoyed about the movie was it didn't feel like a superhero movie. For me, it was kind of like, I classify it similarly as I classified Logan, where to me Logan was more of like a Western or a cowboy movie. So for Joker, it was definitely more of like a noir crime drama thriller thing. I'd sooner compare it to, say, The Departed. Obviously, it's not as complex, but I think that's a Scorsese movie.
Yeah.
I'd compare it to The Departed before I would compare it to even like The Dark Knight. They're similar in tone, but it's less about the character. You could switch out the Joker, you could switch out Gotham and the Waynes, and place in different names, and it would still be a good movie. You don't have to be a Joker fan, you don't have to be a comic book fan to enjoy the movie. I think, though, being a comic book fan, you get more out of it. You get the satisfaction of seeing certain things. Like, for example, at the end, after he's pulled out of the cop car, he's got those people around him, that cult of the Joker that's basically sprung up through the riots, and he creates, his iconic grin with his own blood. That was very satisfying as a fan. I was like, that was well deserved. And I think that really summarizes my thoughts for the movie. Is everything was earned. Nothing was just like handed to you. So, yeah.
All right, so if we're going to the ending.
Sure.
After everything goes, Joker did the smile. He's in Arkham Asylum, or Arkham State Hospital, as they call it in this movie.
Right.
And he's talking with the lady I don't remember her name, but he says, she's like, you wouldn't get the joke.
Yeah.
What was the joke?
Right.
Yeah.
That's an interesting question.
Because he never said the joke explicitly.
Right. He's just in there laughing, kind of
Yeah.
like he was when he was talking to his
Yeah.
first therapist.
Mhm.
I don't remember if he was smoking or not, because I remember when he
Yeah.
was talking to his first therapist, he was definitely smoking. But yeah, that's interesting, especially because throughout the movie, or really in the climax of the film, he says something like, "Oh, I thought my life was a tragedy. It
Yeah,
turns
but now
out
it's
it's
a
a comedy." Yeah. So
Hope my death makes more sense than my life.
yeah, and
Yeah.
that was,
That was
with
funny.
CENTS
Yeah,
instead of
CENTS,
sense.
yeah.
So that was. It was interesting because he went on to the Murray Franklin show, I guess planning to kill himself, but then he
Yeah.
decided, I'm gonna do something else. So, yeah, the joke, what made him laugh, it could have been anything at that point.
There was one thing online. It was set like 20 years in the future, and he finally, like at that moment, he realized that he connected all the dots and realized that the guy who Bruce Wayne was Batman.
Yeah.
It's just a weird theory, and it really was interesting.
So was the theory that that scene at the end with the therapist took place in the future?
Yeah.
Interesting.
And that's he just got locked up by Batman into the prison.
Okay.
And he just he just realized that everything happened 20 years ago when he was put the smile on the Joker's or Batman, little Bruce Wayne's face,
Yeah.
and then Franklin, what's his name? The butler.
Oh, Alfred.
Alfred
Yeah.
Franklin, whatever. Alfred, he pushes him away. He's like, get out, but he's like, yeah. That happens.
Right.
So it was weird. What do you think, Drew?
Personally, I like the ending with the kind of the funny joke end line. Also like a little prelude to the Thomas Wayne and Martha Wayne murders.
Oh yeah.
The guy which kind of goes back to Batman Begins, opens with that. So kind of the cool little bridge from that to Batman Begins. If you want to watch from that to Begins, Dark Knight to Rises. I liked it. It seemed like it was a good scene where the whole crowd rallied around Joker for the burning of Gotham, which is kind of a cool scene to see.
Yeah.
Not morally, but good, cool scene to see.
Yeah. And that was, honestly, going into it, that was another thing. Because I know in 1989 in Tim Burton's Batman, it turns out that Jack Nicholson's Joker is the one that murders Michael Keaton's Bruce Wayne parents.
That's a lot of people.
Yeah, no, I'm just throwing names out there like crazy, aren't I?
Sheesh.
But in the 1989 Tim Burton Batman movie, the Joker, basically, the guy that becomes the Joker, kills Batman's parents. And that was something that was it was a big thing at the time. And so going into this movie, I kind of expected, especially seeing the trailers and kind of getting the gist of the plot where he starts that movement with the Jokers and stuff, I had a feeling going into it that the movement he started would somehow cause Batman to be created.
Yeah.
It would somehow inspire that violence. And seeing that, or knowing that going in, or believing that going in, I was a little bit hesitant. I was like, it seems kind of predictable. But I was really happy when I saw it happen because it made sense.
Yeah.
It just logically followed. So.
All right, star rating.
Out of
Spinnaker
5
sale.
sales.
Out of 5 sales. Where are you giving the movie? Ashton Glocky, let's go.
5.
5?
I loved it.
Sheesh, that's a lot of stars. Drew McDonald.
I gave it a 4.5. The story made more sense after seeing this. So call back to the joke of the Joker.
Right.
More.
Right. Yeah. I'll give it a 5. 5 sales out of 5.
I'm going to go 4.76.
I knew you were gonna say it. I was in my head. I was like, you're gonna say 4.78 or something. I was
Just because
too off.
Bruce Wayne, as that little kid, worst acting I've seen in a movie this year. Trash.
Oh,
Thank you.
Wow.
Funny callback. When Bruce Wayne slides down that little the pole, it calls back to Robin's 1960s when he slides down the pole.
Yeah.
All right, 4.78. Never mind.
All right, so we're good. All right, so thank you guys so much for watching this week's episode. We'll be back with another spoiler cast in 2 weeks, so make sure to stick around and see the rest of our Spinnaker TV content.
Why so serious?
Bye.